All right, we're back with a few more self-defense stories for you. I think I have 10 for you today. We're going to start in Atlanta, Georgia, where we have an adult male who was unharmed and a 26-year-old male who was killed. And this one appears to be a home invasion. A death investigation is underway Monday morning at an apartment complex in southwest Atlanta. Atlanta police say they received a call around 1 a.m. for an attempted burglary, but it turned into a person shot call. It happened at the Landing Square Apartments. Investigators say a 26-year-old man was found with multiple gunshot wounds and was taken to the hospital, where he later died. They say the homeowner believed a burglary was happening when he shot the man. Police say the 26-year-old man may have been going into the apartment, but it's unknown at this time whether it was intentional or by mistake. Officers are currently speaking with the homeowner to determine exactly what led up to the shooting. They say the two men did not know each other. Homicide detectives are investigating. A neighbor woke up to the sound outside her window and said, "In America, you do have to kind of protect yourself. I do understand that. I don't think the person who maybe was trying to break in knew what was on the other side. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a bad situation." So the police are alluding, at least in this reporting, to the possibility of this guy not actually being a burglar, but entering the apartment by mistake, which is something that does happen, especially if people are under the influence of something and they think they're going into their apartment and they're actually going into somebody else's apartment. But we don't really know that that's the case in that incident. Oh, and now we got another from Atlanta, Georgia, the day before that. We don't get a lot of Atlanta, Georgia, but now we got two in a row. All right, so this one is a female victim and a female suspect, 28-year-old female suspect. And this looks like a home invasion too. A couple weeks ago, I did one of these, and I was saying it was a female on female, and I was saying how you don't really see these very often, and now it seems like they're popping up quite a bit. And this is just a short, it looks like a police report. On July 30th of 2023 at approximately 4:14 a.m., officers were dispatched in reference to a person shot. Upon arrival, officers located a 28-year-old female with several gunshot wounds to her legs. The 28-year-old female was alert, conscious, and breathing and was transported to the hospital. Preliminary investigation indicates that the victim may have forcibly entered the apartment of an unknown female and was subsequently shot. The known female suspect entered the apartment of a known female. Okay, so these guys knew each other, and she was shot. The known female suspect was still on the scene upon officers' arrival. Detectives are investigating the circumstances surrounding the incident. So some female broke into the house of another female who they apparently knew each other, and apparently the female in the house didn't realize who it was or thought somebody was breaking in and ended up shooting them. There could be a million reasons why that happened. It could actually even have been a mistake that she shot her, but at least neither one died. The one that broke in it just says that she was injured. All right, let's go to Chicago, Illinois, where all it says is we got a male victim that was injured, and because all Chicago things come down to the police department reports, because they don't do news articles on this kind of stuff in Chicago for some reason. A male victim was on his skateboard when he observed a group of unknown males on the corner. As he approached, one of the unknown offenders fired shots at the victim, and the victim also returned fire. The victim sustained a gunshot wound to the left knee and was transported to the hospital in good condition. There is no one in custody. The victim's handgun was recovered, and Area 1 detectives are investigating. So this guy's going down the street on a skateboard, comes up to a group that start firing at him, and apparently he had a gun on him, and he started firing back. But that's about all you can get out of that story. All right, let's go to Dothan, Alabama, where we have an adult male victim who was unharmed, and our suspect is 55-year-old Charles Kevin Sexton, and he was killed. And this one looks like it's a domestic violence. An Ashford man was shot and killed after officials say he broke into someone's home and began assaulting someone in the home. The incident took place in the city limits of Dothan. The police say the deceased, Charles Kevin Sexton, arrived at a home looking for his ex-girlfriend, who he believed to be there. Sexton got out of the car and forced his way into the home, knocking down several doors in the process and even forcing his way past the homeowner until he got to his ex-girlfriend. Police say Sexton then pulled the ex-girlfriend from the third room and began assaulting her. The homeowner retrieved a handgun and began demanding the suspect to stop. At that time, the suspect began to charge at the homeowner, who then shot him one time in the upper torso. The suspect exited the residence and entered the same vehicle and left. The suspect was dropped off at the emergency room, where he later was pronounced dead. So this is, again, this goes back to women. You really need to think through who these guys you are dating are. Because in this instant, not only was your life being threatened by this guy, but everybody that you were with that night. You brought that person, that ex-boyfriend, into the lives of all these other people and risked all their lives. And women, you date these guys that, they stay with you forever. Once you've dated them, they're a part of your life. And oftentimes they don't leave. But you see them come back in incidents like this that put a lot of different people's lives at risk. Luckily in this, the only one that ended up, things not turning out well for is the guy that broke in the house, the ex-boyfriend. But often it doesn't turn out that way. And someone that's innocently there ends up being the one that ends up dying because, your association with somebody that's not, you got to think like 10 steps down the line. Play chess. Don't play checkers when you're dating these guys. You got to think multiple moves ahead. And if you think this guy, he's got a past or a history of doing stuff like this, you can't date him to begin with, because you're just asking for trouble. All right, we're going to go to Chattanooga, Tennessee, where we have a 24-year-old male victim uninjured, or he was injured, and our suspect's a 21-year-old male who was also injured, and this looks like another home invasion. Chattanooga police continue to investigate the Sunday morning home invasion shooting. At 7:16 a.m., officers responded to a suspicious activity call at the residence on Chariton Drive. When they arrived, they found several shell casings, a firearm, and a 24-year-old man suffering from non-life-threatening gunshot wounds in the arm and groin. He was transported to the hospital. A short time later, a 21-year-old man checked into a local hospital with a gunshot wound believed to be related to the home invasion. And let's see if that's pretty much it. His specific involvement in the incident is still being investigated. So this sounds like someone breaks into the house and the homeowner had a gun, started shooting, and the guy that broke in started shooting, and both people are doing okay. All right, we'll go to, wow, this is 3 days in a row within Atlanta, Georgia. July 29th, 30th, and 31st we've had so far. Okay, Atlanta, Georgia, again, we got an adult male victim who was unharmed and a 32-year-old male suspect who was injured and arrested. Man shot after hitting another man with a stick. Okay, this is more of a police report. On July 29th of 2023 at approximately 4:09 p.m., officers were dispatched in reference to a person shot. Upon arrival, officers located a 32-year-old male with a gunshot wound to each of his arms. Preliminary investigation indicates that prior to the 32-year-old man being shot, he had been in a verbal altercation with another male over food. The verbal altercation escalated into the 32-year-old man brandishing a large stick, which he then struck the other male with. During the assault, the victim produced a handgun and shot the 32-year-old male suspect in self-defense. The 32-year-old male suspect was placed into custody and charged accordingly. Both the 32-year-old male suspect and the victim were transported to the hospital in stable condition. Investigators with the aggravated assault unit arrived on the scene to conduct the investigation. So you see a lot of these shootings that happen as a result of altercations. And this one was an argument over food. Now, it doesn't say that these were people living on the street that were fighting over food that, was something that they needed to save their lives. Likely these two guys were just sitting there and one person took the last Hot Pocket or something and made the other person upset because he was hoping to eat it. I have no idea, but oftentimes it's as simple as something like that. There's no real reason behind any of this stuff. Okay, we're going to go to Tampa, Florida. This one happened on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Okay, we got a victim that's unharmed, and we have an adult male suspect who was unharmed. See what happened in Tampa. A Tampa jewelry store employee shot at 3 armed robbery suspects on Friday afternoon. A gray Nissan Altima drove around the parking lot at Liberty Jewelers on West Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard before a woman got out and entered the store. As the woman was leaving, after walking around a few minutes, she held the door open for 2 men. One who was armed with a hammer. The man with the hammer smashed a display case and grabbed multiple items. Police said the second man stood in the doorway and pointed a gun inside at the employees and customers. The store employee shot at the suspects who left the area. A bullet hit an unoccupied car in the parking lot that belonged to someone who was not involved in the robbery. No injuries were reported. And police are now searching for suspects who were in the Altima with a white paper tag OTX 4425. So these guys were breaking in or trying to steal from a jewelry store. And these jewelry stores, they're all armed now. I mean, maybe not the big box chains, but if you're going into a smaller one, they're all armed because this is happening way too often. And it's the only thing that scared these guys off. And if you have a jewelry store on West Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, in my opinion, you are kind of asking for trouble. Let's go to Cassopolis, Michigan, where we have an adult male victim who is unharmed, and we have an adult male suspect who was injured and arrested. Police in Cassopolis say a man who allegedly tried to rob a gas station in the village at gunpoint was himself shot by a customer at the station late Thursday night. The Village of Cassopolis police chief says his department was dispatched to an attempted robbery and shooting at the Stone Lake Marathon. Just before 10 p.m., when officers arrived on the scene, they found a male had been shot several times and another male holding the suspect at gunpoint. Officers were able to determine that the male that was shot had attempted to rob the clerk and was shot by the customer with the gun. The male that was shot was transported to the South Bend Memorial Hospital. He was admitted with his injuries. The man who shot the suspect did have a valid concealed carry pistol license. Officers also located the armed robbery suspect vehicle and arrested a female for possession of some illicit substances and an outstanding warrant. The case is under investigation. So this is an example of somebody robbing a convenience store and one of the customers actually stopping the robbery. And we have stories like this all the time where these guys try to rob these places. And, with the guy, if you're in the place and you have a gun on you, you're just as at risk as the clerk is. So this guy just kind of took things into his own hands and stopped the incident completely. So now we're going to go on to St. Louis, Missouri, where we have our victim is an adult female who is unharmed. And we have 2 suspects. They're both adult males, and they were both injured. 2 suspects were reportedly shot by a homeowner in South City after breaking into a garage early Thursday morning. According to the police, the homeowner was in the rear garage, which he is temporarily living in, when the 2 men broke in just before 3 a.m. When one of the men charged at her, she shot him and ran out the door of the garage. The second suspect then started fighting her, and the woman reportedly hit him with her gun, and he was shot in the hand. Both suspects were taken to the hospital and listed in stable condition. Do not mess with women in St. Louis, Missouri, apparently, because this girl took on 2 dudes, and they ended up being the ones going to the hospital. I don't know if she got hurt. It doesn't say if she got hurt in the fight she got in with the second guy, but she put a bullet in both of them. All right, this is our last one. This is Swansboro, North Carolina, where we have an adult victim who is unharmed. We got 3 suspects, all adult males, and all were unharmed. And this looks like another home invasion. The Carteret County Sheriff's Office is investigating an early morning home invasion that took place in Pelletier. According to a press release from the Sheriff's Office, the incident occurred when 3 masked men forcibly entered the residence with the apparent intention of committing a robbery. Their plans are met with unexpected resistance when the homeowner opened fire in self-defense. During the encounter, a brief exchange of gunfire ensued, leading the intruder to flee the scene. No injuries were reported among the occupants of the residence. Detectives suspect the home was deliberately targeted by the intruders. So there were 10 of these, and that seems like that was like at least the 5th or 6th one that were home invasions. Last week when I did these, I don't think there was a single home invasion, and this week they were almost all home invasions. 6 of them, so over half of them. And this one was just, 3 guys break in, and they end up leaving. It said in the initial thing said that they were all unharmed. All right, well, that's all I got for you today, but I'll be back next week with more self-defense stories for you. Until then, have a great week.